My name is Jonathon Lee. I am from St. Louis, Missouri. I am an instructional specialist for the Midwest Education Technology Community, otherwise known as METC. Some like to call it METC, but we just say METC. And then I also work for the St. Louis Regional Professional Development Center, RPDC. So in an acronym of 4, I probably work for them. So,
cool.
Yeah.
So you're touching a lot of schools out there.
I am, yes. Yeah, our organization, both of those organizations that I work for are part of Education Plus, which is another one, and it's a membership-based organization. We have 62 member districts in St. Louis region, and I also work for the state, so I work for 512 districts throughout the state.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm hitting quite a few buildings throughout the year.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
That's cool. So give us a quick rundown of your major responsibilities in either side, because you're kind of wearing 2 hats there.
Absolutely. So on the METC side, we're a tech organization, so I do a lot of tech PD. I am Google certified trainer, so I do a lot of Google training right now. A lot of our schools in St. Louis are going Google, so we do a lot of that. And then I'm very passionate about coding, and so I do a lot of coding training as well, not only just the middle school, high school, but also focusing on getting it into the elementary level, because that's not very well known right now, and elementary teachers are scared because they don't know how to code and don't know what that looks like. But then, so that's half my job, and then the other half of me works for that state piece, and we look a lot about data, instructional strategies, practices, stuff like that. And so we work with PLCs and teams of teachers on what practices to put in place to meet the needs of all those children. So.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's very different. Very nice.
What brings you to the Innovation Institute?
So we actually partner with eMints, is one of the organizations that kind of helps put this on, and they are based out of Columbia, Missouri, but they also have a big presence in St. Louis. I was an eMints teacher back in the day when I started teaching, and so I've got my eMints training, and so I know quite a few of the eMints teachers, workers that are here, and I've known them for quite some time, and they've been talking about this for a couple of years, and we help support this as well. We provide some of the free gifts that they give away, so their Twitter thing, and so I'm just kind of coming down here and presenting and representing my organization, and I've heard it's just great. So
cool.
Kind of come check it out. It's worth the drive, that's for sure.
Really nice conference.
Absolutely.
Really nice
Absolutely.
conference. So any sessions you've been to that you thought were really hot, really cool?
Well, I just got out of Matt Miller's session on using video, and so there's a couple different video options. Learning about Flipgrid was pretty cool. Yeah. I've heard of it, but not actually used it. It's pretty neat. And then just some other ones that he was talking about. Screencastify, which I use quite often, was pretty neat. So, but yeah, other than that, I just did my session and just getting prepared for it, and had some good barbecue. So that's right. I did go to an iPad session this morning about coding, and so that was pretty neat. We don't have many iPad schools in St. Louis. We have some; they're out there, but so many are going Google and having Chromebooks now.
Sure,
so we've been focusing on that. But we do have the iPad section, and so that session was interesting and intriguing on their Swift coding platform. It was pretty cool too.
They just released it to the secondary and college levels.
Yeah. So I gave them my card and took their card, see if we can kind of get some more information on how we can help schools that are iPads and get that in their hands. So
we watched the keynote the other day. Was that Monday? Yeah, was that Monday we watched the keynote? I'm so lost. Yeah, Monday, the keynote.
iPad Palooza?
Yeah. Well, no, it was the Worldwide Developers Conference right now.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And their new stuff that they're pushing with VR and AR and stuff is pretty cool.
Yep.
And that's really neat. You know, it's funny, we've seen it happen. I've seen entire districts go from iPads to Chromebooks.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You know, not that the iPad's a great device, amazing device. We all love our Apple devices. But, you know, it's really true. For the ease to ease into it, cost-wise, you know, what you need to get going. You know, in education, we've always had the problem of let's buy a Ferrari Testarossa to teach 16-year-olds how to drive.
Yes.
You know, no, that's, you know, and that's kind of where we're at. But we've actually all started to realize, wait, we really don't need to do that. Because our teachers are like, I don't know how to drive a Ferrari Testarossa. You just handed me the keys to something I can't drive. It's interesting to see it, you know, but it's nice to see the balance.
Yes.
Those same schools that have one-to-one Chromebooks have, you know, Mac editing labs and, you know, iPod carts that can be taken out to use for special coding prep apps and things that come out. So that's really nice to see that. And you probably see that a lot in the schools that you deal with?
We do, yeah. And I am a big component. I mean, I love Google, obviously, but I also believe that you can't just choose one platform. Like you were saying, you got to have. I mean, students have no idea what they're going to be walking into when they get into the real world, and so they need to have some kind of experience with each of those platforms. Because regardless of that transition from Apple to Google in the elementary setting, who knows where it's going to be down the road. And the big three, Microsoft, Apple, and Google, they're going to be around for a while, and they're competing with each other, which is creating some amazing stuff. And I think that's been the biggest thing, is seeing what Google's done and how it's made that transgression has made Apple and Microsoft think differently.
Right.
You know, I mean, thinking about it, just in this morning's sessions, they were talking about the iPads we were holding were the new student iPads that were $300.
$29.
So that's a huge difference from $500. So why is that? They'll never admit it, but I have to believe it's Google related.
Well, sure it is.
Sure.
That's exactly why.
Microsoft Office Online 365 for free. Never happened before. So it's forcing them to think differently, because we as educators have to think differently because our budgets are tight. And so I did a presentation actually to compare those three and the amount of money being spent on education tools. So Google did, I think the numbers were like 60% of tools being purchased by schools was Chromebooks. But when you put that into dollars, it was like $1 billion. 20% were iPads, that's $3 billion.
Right.
So they're still, you know, they're not getting as much of the market, but they're still getting a huge amount of money.
Right.
And so it's just, you know, unfortunately, schools are strapped for cash. And so I think if they bring that price down, I mean, but I agree, it's definitely a place for iPads. It is an amazing machine.
Yeah.
You know, I wish I had 10 of them in my classroom.
Sure.
You know, but I'd rather, if I had a choice, I'll take 20 Chromebooks.
Right.
Because everybody can have their own device, you know?
Yeah.
But
Well, and just the evolution of technology and what you can do in the internet or on the internet and quote, you know, in the cloud, you know, the things that we used to have, these massively powerful, you know, just killer machines to do video editing. And now you can fire up an app that is in the cloud, and it will do it'll let you do all that video manipulating and all that kind of stuff that we used to have a powerful desktop to do.
And it still took days.
Yeah, even then. You know, and now, you know, you push it up to a site, you do all your editing and finalize it, and you don't even have to download it, because you just go from there and you export it to whatever other site you need it to go on to. And you know, oh, you need that on YouTube? Yeah, no problem. Here, click here, and it goes to YouTube. I mean, it's
so much easier. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's one of my favorite things about that's happening in education. It's finally caught up with us. The technology has finally caught up with what we need, and that's cloud services. You know, Google knew, and they gave it away, and they still give it away. And, you know, why not? And that's the big thing I notice here. There's a lot of workshops and sessions on, you know, use the cloud, share information, teach your students to share information. You know, you probably see this a lot. We still have this in schools that we work with, where they'll say, you know, I'm running out of space on my machine. It's okay. You've got a Google Drive. You know, go ahead and drop everything to there. In fact, load the extension up and just never keep anything on your machine again. You know, it's really interesting to see where we've come to there, and I think that's going to be the big one for all of our kids. Yeah, and I love it because, you know, thinking about Amazon Web Services, you know how large they've gotten, and that so now we're seeing more and more educational technology entrepreneurs start up. Seesaw, Cross Braining, you know, Flipgrid, all these companies that it's cost effective for them now. And cost effective for the schools. Hey, it's $1.23 a kid, you know, for your district. Holy smokes! You know, when you start looking at the actual cost, you go, yeah, I can afford 12 software titles now, when before I could only afford 3 because they're cloud based. That to me is really the saving grace for education, right there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, you mentioned Amazon. That's. I usually say the three big ones, but Amazon's going to be a big player soon in the market.
Interesting, isn't it?
And I think Samsung's going to make a big push too. All of a sudden, they've got their own web browser coming out this week. And so I think that's going to be the first little dip into. We've got our own devices. We're going to have our own browser. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what pops up.
You know, I think back to when, I wasn't around when the internet was born, but I was definitely around when the World Wide Web was born, you know, early 90s. And we had that period of time where you had all of these companies making all these different browsers, and you could do this thing in this browser and this thing in this browser, but you couldn't do that over in this one. Mm-hmm. And then there was kind of a convergence where we're like, okay, look, we've got the standards, let's freaking use the standards. Now I realize you have to push the envelope a little bit so that those kinds of cutting edge things become standard. But then, for a while, things seem to be friendly. And now we're back to, you got to have Chrome and Firefox and Safari and Internet Explorer and Edge. And, by the way, Samsung's coming out with a web browser. And it's kind of like, really? Come on, man.
And certain things don't work on...
And certain things don't work.
The state testing in Missouri didn't work on anything but Internet Explorer for a while. And it was, I agree, it's a mess.
Yeah, we still have that with a lot of stuff. Like this administrative software only works in IE.
Yes.
And,
competition.
It's competition.
Right.
And, it's America. you got to give it that.
Yep.
There's the thing. We complain about it, but also, we live in the greatest country on the face of the planet. You can't beat that. So you love capitalism, man.
Well, hopefully, anyway. But hopefully it all pans out and we end up benefiting. That doesn't always happen.
And education's always had a hard time to benefit from that when you go all the way back. It's like, well, which book company do I use? Mm-hmm. Who do I have? Mifflin? And now we're at that same point. What's the best choice for us? Mm-hmm. But you see, I think that's the key is, and you're doing this, and I think that's what everyone's doing now, is we're teaching them that it's just the tool.
Right.
Absolutely.
Teaching hasn't changed.
Yep.
I was a band director for a long time. Band hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Band, we the core of how we teach band is exactly the same that Sousa taught his band. We do the same thing. That's what we do. Yes, there's some new technology and we march differently and we use electronics, but music's music and band's band, and you stand at attention and you march in this line and you play your concerts. And teaching's exactly the same way.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the biggest thing that we've noticed is the excitement among teachers that are now are getting that. In the early 2000s, late 90s, you remember how it was. We had some teachers that were great teachers, but you put that Windows machine in front of them, or you threw XP at them, it actually hindered their original teaching. It actually began to hinder.
Well, by the same token, though, how much do you still see that when you're working with teachers?
Still do.
We still do.
So that's some of the things that
because you see it now as they're so used to the XP and Windows 7 machines, and now they're getting Chromebooks, and they're flipping out.
Yeah.
What, I can't print? What do you mean I can't print?
Yeah.
I got to be able to print. So you still see that. And you brought up a good point. I think that it is the tool, and so you can't really think about the tool. You have to go what we've always thought about. What do you want the students to learn?
Yep.
And then once you know that, you can start nitpicking and saying this tool will work, or I want to use this tool, and because you're not going to be with this competition and capitalism, it's going to continue to grow and stuff's going to continue to come out, and you can't keep up.
Right.
So you just have to stick with what you're doing, and then say, okay, no, this time I'm going to try this one. And so like I said, it's just a tool that you're going to use, and we should be using them.
Yeah.
But we don't have to use all of them.
Right.
We can't.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah,
I've tried that before. Financial, you cannot.
No,
time-wise, you
absolutely.
can't do that. It's really interesting. When we have a lot of teachers that retire, or they'll call and say, "I'm retiring and I'm going to buy my own computer," because they've used a school machine for a decade, and I don't know what to get. So I normally tell them, take out a piece of paper and write down the top 10 or 20 things you want to do.
Yep.
And that's where we're going to start. And really, that's where we're back in the classroom. What are let's take a look. Don't use a computer, or use Google Docs. What are the top 10 things you need to do? And it's really funny, and you've probably had this conversation, the majority of teachers would be fine with a Chromebook. They're not going to do any heavy audio editing. They're not going to do any heavy, iMovie or Finale or Final Cut or anything like that. They just need these 12 things to always happen. With the ability of, I need to make a flowchart or a graph. Oh, here's 17 extensions in the Chrome store for free.
Yeah.
And that's one of those beautiful things that we're down to. And I bought this Chromebook for $200.
Yeah. I have that conversation a lot when you talk about going from Word to Docs.
Right.
Well, I got to have my Microsoft Word.
Right.
Why? What do you do with it?
Is it word art? Is that what's keeping you in there?
That's the only thing. Pretty much.
You got to give Microsoft this. They just kept, it's the SUV with the 7 TVs, and 2 winches on the front and 2 winches on the back, and it floats and it's got a boat motor in it.
Yeah.
Did you need that stuff? No, but we put it on there because we're the best. Okay, and they were, and they are. Microsoft still makes a wonderful product.
Absolutely.
But that's not 99 out of 100 things that you do every year is you're typing a text document. You might need some bullets. Everything you need. And I have to say, let's talk Google then. Google Docs. Every time they come out with one more thing, this is like the new table of contents, which they came out a few months ago. Wow. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
I've got a college student and I have a high school senior, and they do everything. They do research papers, you name it. And the crazy part is they do most of it from right here,
Absolutely.
which blows my mind from the phone. That's just amazing to me.
Yeah.
But that's we're a complete Google. Everything we do here is based on Google.
Yeah.
We do all of our communications and all of our documents and everything we do for our shows is done in Google.
It's so much easier.
They've made such a big, huge change to what education is going to be. And love them or hate them, we have a lot of old techs that say, well, they're going to take all of our information. Listen, everybody's taking your information.
Exactly. They're all doing it for the same reason.
Did you buy gas this morning and swipe it at a gas station? No. They know that you bought the gas there and they're using it in some analytics somewhere. So get over it, That's one of our, and that's, I like getting in these tech conversations. David and I love that. Right now, if any three of us said those 2 magic words, hey, Siri, she's going to hear us and she's going to come on.
Right.
Or okay Google.
Yeah, okay Google. Yeah, see? And it comes on, you're like, what? Okay. Beautiful stuff. I mean,
absolutely.
The AI and the machine learning it lately have really been blowing my mind. I mean,
and that's and I'm curious. You were talking about you teach coding to students, and I'm curious how much of the conversation of artificial intelligence comes up or has come up as you're talking about coding and machine learning and machine language.
In my conversations, not much, because I'm dealing with the teachers that have not done anything with coding.
Yeah.
So we're still.
They don't even know AI.
They don't want to get into the AI, VR. They don't want to get into all that. They just want to know. Okay, what's this hour of code? Can I only do it for 1 hour a year? Can I do that?
Right.
And then I can just move on to my other stuff. I'm here to spend 6 hours to learn about the 1 hour that I. So
right.
We don't get into a whole lot into the machine learning piece, but I mean that it's going to make a huge. It's going to big change things, no doubt. And so. But yeah, it's funny to watch teachers go, what I can do? Oh, I can do this, and just see that the light bulbs go off in kids' heads and how engaged they could become, and it just changes the mind of the teachers real quick.
Isn't that great to see that when you can see a teacher suddenly realize you just changed the curriculum I've been teaching for 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years. You just changed everything that's been happening in my classroom, because now, even with less work in the past, as these kids move at this light speed, I'm going to get to modify and morph this every year. And it's going to be easy because they're actually leading me down the path, so I know what's coming up next. I think that's a big deal. We were talking earlier, David asked about AI and about coding. We're looking at this country's in flux. We can all admit that this country's in a neat flux right now. Who knows what's going to happen? I mean, personally, I'd love to see more factory jobs come back and more jobs come back. But there's a really interesting part. Those jobs are going to require some level of, problem solving, coding. And with AI and machine learning, you're not going to have to be a computer scientist or an engineer, but you're still going to be able to go to a terminal, do some work that you've learned even in just high school. You're not going to need to go on to college. You're going to get that certification, which we're all doing now. We're making sure you're getting out of high school with that, but you're still going to use that, and AI is going to be at a point that it's going to help us, you do help us do our job better. And that's so, I think that's where we see coding going. There's these levels of coding. You've got the computer scientists, which great. I don't want to know how a processor works. I mean, I understand it, but no, I haven't. But I get Ruby. Okay, I get C++. I get those things. And I think we're going to see even easier languages, which we do now. We see some pretty easy languages that can accomplish a lot. Yeah. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so many times we go back to, I want you to teach coding, but really, you're teaching other skills through coding. I mean, and the problem solving piece is huge.
Yep.
You know, and because that's the biggest setback I get is, well, my kindergartners aren't going to be coders. They have no idea what they're going to be. I agree. But are they going to be problem solvers? Are they going to have to work well with others? Are they going to have to sit here and persevere through a problem that they, because one line of code is incorrect? Yeah, they're going to do all of those things. And so why not give them a fun way to work on those skills?
Yeah. Right.
And so it's just good conversation. I mean, good conversation. Like you said, just beginning. I work with the beginning coding because it's so simple, and you're just going from point A to point B.
Right.
I want you to tell teachers that's all coding is. It's just a set of instructions to go from point A to point B.
Right.
David used to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
That's
Yeah.
it. You know, seriously.
Somebody
That's how
brought that
you
up.
throw it out there. That you should go, oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
And that's one of those things. My wife, now she's a literacy, I can't remember what they call it now.
it's one of the specialists.
Specialist things, coach, whatever, whatever name they gave her. Yeah. But she's teaching second grade, and in Arkansas, we are in the process of rolling out Arkansas State Computer Standards.
Okay.
And so part of one of the things that I was talking with her, and that's part of what I do is help kind of communicate that and try to keep it in English, right? It's so easy to get the techie stuff and go techie on it, and everybody goes, "Oh yeah, you lost me at algorithm," and that's one of the things I was talking to my wife about, and I said, you'll be able to incorporate things like algorithm, the word algorithm, the concept of algorithm, into what you're doing. And she's like, that's all computer stuff. I said, well, but you teach literacy, and it's second grade. You have your students put a story in order, right? Beginning, middle, end. She's like, well, yeah, we do that all the time. I said, so you're having them build an algorithm. And she's like, what? I was like, that's all. It's just a series of steps to get you there. You have them making peanut butter sandwiches and explaining the steps. That's all it is. It's the steps. I said, all you're doing is giving those students a big funny word that those kids are going to love to say. You know, they love to say goofy words or try to say. Exactly. But it's one of those things where it's the little baby steps, and how does this big hairy nasty concept really, when it's all said and done, boil down to what I'm able to take away in plain English and say, oh, that's what you meant. You know, oh wait, so if I'm doing it wrong and I'm trying to figure out how I'm doing it wrong or what was wrong, then I'm debugging. Oh, no, there's a fun word for kids. Debugging. Come on, I mean,
That's my favorite part of the peanut butter and jelly part, because if I'm debugging, I mess up, I just eat it and start over.
That is a plus.
Or you're cleaning up the kitchen table. Or
That's true.
if you're smearing the peanut butter before you get the bread out, you've got to debug and clean up some peanut butter mess.
I'm going to eat some crackers. The injection crackers in this to get that out.
Call your dog over, I guess.
That's right. Well, that's when the parents come in and that's it. That's a runtime error. You're done.
So are you doing any more? Are you doing sessions here?
I am doing a session. I did a session today.
Yeah.
I'm doing the same session tomorrow. It's all around a data workbook that we use in the state of Missouri. And it's with Google Sheets, and it helps teachers put in data and get visual charts and graphs, and it sorts kids into their ability levels depending on how they do on their assessment, and then it forces teachers, it requires teachers to collaborate on how to meet the needs of all their students. And so it's a very intensive process, because it's what needs to happen. It's not the most exciting thing. So, I dubbed mine the data tribe, since we were talking all about your tribe, and data sessions aren't too full when you come to stuff like this. But you know what? It's not a beautiful subject, but it's one that helps you meet the needs of your kids. So
absolutely.
Well, it's one of those that eventually everyone using it has that epiphany one day when they see that one piece of data that actually is relevant to them.
Yeah.
You ever notice that? It's like, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
And then it's like, hey, there's that epiphany, and that worked out really well. Well, awesome. So I guess that's free to everybody. You guys give that out?
Yeah, I was talking in the session. I said, my coworkers told me that, because I didn't create the original document. It was in Excel. When I came on board, I was a big Google person. They said, well, you've got to turn this into Google. So I've switched it and converted it, got rid of I debugged it because the conversion was not the best. And then since then, I've added on a lot of tools added onto it. And so my coworkers like, well, you got to take it out, you got to sell it, you got to brand. I'm like, I didn't get an education to make money. I said, they got to have it for free. So there's a lot of programs out there now that do it, and it costs. It's like that $5 per student kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if you're a small school and you don't have money, it's free. And so, and I told them, I said, the free part is the manual labor, because you have to manually enter in data. It doesn't pull data in, so that portion is what you pay the big money for the other software. But yeah, it is free. And I said we have conversations with the principal saying, okay, you ask your teachers a simple question: what do you assess your kids on? And they will give you a laundry list of stuff they assess, which means they're getting all this data. Which data are they actually using?
Right.
And hopefully this helps them say, let's focus it on this specific data, because the process is, like I said, very intensive. And it would be lovely if every student learned every single standard, which is approximately 300 standards a year.
Right.
Almost impossible for all the kids that we have. Which standards do they have to understand in 5th grade to make it in 6th grade? Not all 300.
Right.
There's some important ones, and so that's what this intensive process focuses on: the priority standards and having that conversation. Because we say, in 5th grade, these 5th graders have to leave with these, otherwise they're lost in 6th grade. And so, even though it's intensive, it focuses on the certain ones. So hopefully, it's not as big of a challenge.
Awesome.
So it works. I've done this here, throughout Missouri, Kentucky, and Kansas. So I'm just kind of, spreading it out there. Everybody's walking, and I keep telling us that, my coworkers call me a guru in Google Sheets, but I'm way low compared to the people that I do know that are really good at Google Sheets. So I'm waiting for that person to look at the workbook and say, you know what, you can also do this and add this, because I know it can go so much further. Yeah. And like I said, keep it free and it'd be so much beneficial. So
the rumor is that sometime in July, end of July, 1st of August, that the next rollout from Google Suites from Google, where Sheets is concerned, is a pickup of 70 to 80% conversion from Excel.
Really?
More formulas, more all that good stuff. So that'll be really interesting to see.
Yeah. Now, they just rolled out a few new ones. This past week.
They have, And so I think they're going to tier it out. It sounds like they do it, and then maybe just one little last big push. Google likes to do that. So
the only issue, the big issue, the Excel version dealt with pivot table. Had a pivot table that moved things around. It wasn't necessarily a requirement, so I was able to work around that. And that was the biggest debug was, okay, how do I, because the pivot table in Sheets, not very good, not very reliable.
Nope.
And so I was like, how do I take this information and get it in Sheets form instead of a pivot table form?
Yeah.
And so that was the biggest debug that I had to work on. But other than that, it converted pretty much perfectly.
That's cool. That's
awesome. So it just took a little time to figure that out. But yeah. So,
so how can people get in touch with you on Twitter?
Yeah, so on Twitter, I am at JLeeTechPercent. That's JLEETechPercent.
All right.
And my organization is METC, and they're at METC Ed Plus.
Cool.
Awesome.
They're just putting it on the Twitter
We're going to send it out right now.
Sweet. And our podcasts. I was telling you guys.
Yeah, that's right.
We shared pulled pork nachos at lunch today.
That's right.
Talking about podcasts, and we have an METC podcast. I'm only on episode 10, so it's still in its infancy stage.
Yeah.
So there's the audio is not always the best because I'm still working with which one's the best, and I'm not always in the same area as my guests. Last week I was at a hotel and I went with the free Wi-Fi, so it kind of cut in and out. But I wasn't going to pay $10 for the extra Wi-Fi.
Right.
So, but it's good. Yeah, it's MBTC podcast, and if anybody wants to check it out or be on the show, I'm just looking to highlight educators that don't think they do anything special, but yet they do. So That's what we do. That's what we focus on.
That's great stuff.